Hello everyone, and welcome, a very warm welcome to this live stream. Once again, here we are for the ToLiss Airbus A321. On our flight today, we're going to be flying from Bucharest to Budapest, so a bit of an Eastern European tour. Thank you very much for joining me. I apologise for the slightly late start. There's been a few technical issues as we got set up as usual, just working through a few issues with Vulkan. I don't know if any of you had this issue where the screen's grey out, but there we go. So as I always say at the start of these things, I am a real-world Airbus pilot. So hopefully this can bring some extra context to your home simulations. It's not for any real-world use, obviously, and we'll look at some of the differences as we go through using the ToLiss Airbus A321. So today, here we are on stand. We're on stand 218 in Bucharest, Lima Romeo Oscar Papa. A beautiful Wizz Air A321. I do think this livery looks quite smart, quite recognisable. You see these flying overhead and you can see them from the ground. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. Something I haven't done yet is set up the flight plan, unfortunately. There is an event on in VATSIM, so that's going to take us, hopefully, with air traffic control from here over to Budapest. An interesting day in Budapest. They've got a lot of thunderstorms in the area. If you've been on our Discord earlier, you might have seen there's a bit of chat about that from Chewy pointing out. So they've got some rather interesting weather forecasts, so we'll have a look at how we might plan for that. So the first thing I'm going to do, sadly, you won't be able to see it, so I do apologise for this. I just need to get it loaded in to VATSIM, something I failed to get done in time earlier while I was fiddling with the simulator. We're going to fly from Lima Romeo Oscar Papa to SOKRU using a SOKRU departure. Then we're taking airway Mike 747 to ENIMA, then the airway Tango 746 to NEPOT, NEPOT, then Lima 851. I do apologise, guys, but Lima 851 to DEGET. And then we're going direct to KEZAL. It'll be the KEZAL arrival. I hope the sound is working okay for you. It is slightly different today. We've changed our streaming software. So what I'm going to do is just set this up, send the flight plan in, and then I'm going to have a quick chat to you about why we've done that and what we are on now. Our alternate's going to be Vienna, LOWW. And we're departing at 17:30 UTC. Excellent. Right. That flight plan is filed. Okay, starting to come together. Excellent. Right, I understand I'm a little bit quiet. I don't actually, I have a bit of an issue turning up the volume for myself. How's the volume for you guys? Let's just jump into the chat quickly and have a look how everyone's doing. So Swappy, welcome once again. Thanks for coming along. And Matteo Chewy, I've been in contact with you through Discord as well. So thank you for joining us. Alex's World Aviation. Excellent. Someone from Romania, Bucharest. So you'll be able to tell me everything I pronounce wrong and the procedures I do wrong. Richard V, again, thank you for coming along. As always, a long-time viewer. And thank you guys for taking your time out today. Tango Delta, another long-time viewer. Liz05 as well. Glenn Chambers, hi Glenn. So thank you for coming. Fly24, excellent. Jordi here again. It's great to see you guys. Thank you all for your support over this time as we come through. Ian Morris as well. Spree Music, I recognise that name. Peely UK, very well. Thank you very much for coming along. Edward Job. Winglets, yes, Sharklets, absolutely. So today we are in a rather fancy version of the 321. Oh, no, we're not. You're right. That is an excellent point. I completely agree. I thought I'd set them on. So obviously, a nice shiny new Wizz Air Airbus would have those. Probably not have a SATCOM antenna. I don't think they have Wi-Fi on board, although I don't know that. Someone might know. Yes, a bit quiet. That's a little bit frustrating. I'm just going to see if I can adjust that at all for you guys. I don't want to mess anything up. That can't go any higher. That is a little bit frustrating. Guys, I'm sorry. At the moment, I can't seem to improve the volume situation. You may be able to hear the desktop in the background at reduced volume. If anyone knows Streamlabs better than me, do let me know. Let me see if turning this up helps. So have I got any louder now? So do tell me. Tango does loud and clear. Excellent. If that's too loud, do tell me. So excellent. Swappy S livery looks juicy. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really nice one. So there we go. That's a bit more fitting with the Wizz Air logo. As usual, we've got our doors open. I will invest in that ground services thing at some point in the near future, I promise. I think it would look nicer to start like that. Great. So let's start off by looking at what we've set up so far as usual. So we've got all our doors open. Passengers are boarding. and I'm going to start up the APU because I think it's quite a warm day here. Temperature outside 27, so you would certainly feel that if we look in the cabin temperature. Yeah, 31. That would be roasting. You'd soon know about that. So let's get some APU running. So 3 seconds wait and we can start that. Passengers are getting on. Fueling's complete. We'll put the seatbelt signs on and let that all get started. So let's have a look at that route which I filed. So LROP, I'm expecting 26 left. We'll get the ATIS shortly. And just to give you guys an overview, we're heading out via SOKRU, which is effectively north. We'll get our clearance for air traffic. Up we go. And it's not a long flight. We'll barely make a cruise, I suspect, up at 340 for a little bit, and then we'll start our descent in towards Budapest. What we're going to do, the plan is when we arrive into Budapest, I'm hoping we'll disconnect from VATSIM, we'll improve the weather to what we need it to be, and maybe make it a bit more daylight, and we'll fly ourselves from Budapest airport. I've got it all loaded, hopefully in the simulator and ready to go. That's what took a bit of extra time at the start, and get ourselves to fly down the Danube River, which is an idea I was given. Fly24 came up with that one. So we'll fly ourselves down the Danube, just as Wizz Air did in their air show. I think they've done it twice now. I don't know if you guys have seen that video on YouTube. But yeah, it's quite an exciting video. They do it at 200 feet. So we'll have a go at that. I've sort of set it up, but we shall see how things go. So there's our flight plan. So if we look through, we've done our data, our init A, LROP to Budapest, ultimate to Vienna, Wizz Air 439. Excuse me, Wizz Air 439, Coston X50. Just to give us time to do the flight at the end, and if you guys can stick around and enjoy it. And we got our wind loaded in. A few conversations about the wind. I do apologise, guys. I'm talking a little bit too fast. Okay, that's better. Slowing down. So there's our flight, 340 to cruise. Secondary, I'm going to copy the active. Init B, I thought for amusement we'd go slightly heavier today. So we got a 0 fuel weight, 70 tons, taking off at 79. Still, it's not that heavy for a 321, especially considering we can go up to 90, over 90 tons in these. But the landing weight's close. 77 tons around their maximum landing weight, depending on what your airline pays for. So if you have a day like today where we have weather at the other end and you put on too much fuel, it's very easy if you don't burn it to be over that landing weight. So we have to be careful with that. And we can see on our flight plan, maximum 77.8. So how much fuel are we taking? This is something I did want to talk about. 7.5 block fuel gives us 15 minutes contingency fuel, which we're not expecting to burn. So we're already landing with 800 in the plan, so that's fine. But 7.5, so that's 15 minutes holding at the other end. But if we go to the weather, and you'll excuse me, this is what Matteo Chewy pointed out in the Discord. We can see, not there, sorry, I'm not a massive fan of this exact layout, but that's probably just because I'm not used to it. And here we go, here's the weather. Budapest FIR, they're talking about thunderstorms. So embedded thunderstorms. So we're going to definitely make sure we have our radar on. Tops at 320. Okay, so they're not that tall, but we'll certainly be descending through them. And being at 340, we'd barely scrape over them even if we were in the cruise. And here's the weather in Budapest. They've got easterly winds, 22 degrees, QNH 1000, so that's fine. But a variable 25 gusting 40. That's a tempo. So what that tells us is variable, they're not sure of the direction, and it's temporary, and it seems to be associated with 1400 meters in heavy thunderstorms, rain, and GR, which is hail, or the easy way, obviously, to remember as Grail. Squalls, broken, 2000 CVs. So there's a lot of potential for delays there, including the event. So yeah, that tells us there's thunderstorms passing through. And the reason they're not sure of the wind direction is probably because as that cell, or the thunderstorm cell, passes around the airport, the wind will be coming out of it. So as it moves around, it will just change the wind on the ground all over the place. So that suggests it could be quite close to the airfield. It's not even a Prop 30 or a Prop 40, so they think it will happen. It's just they'll be passing through. Tempo means for half an hour out of every hour. After that, it gets better. So as the evening goes on, they're expecting to break down, which is quite common. Thunderstorms build up in the afternoon and then fade out as the evening drags on. And as we can see, we're further east here, so that's UTC. So yeah, makes sense. The alternative Vienna, LOWW, is looking a little bit nicer, which sort of makes sense. So here we go. It's 20005. They got a few CBs up until 1500. We're after that now. And then we've got our stronger winds and thunderstorms tomorrow. So they're expecting it a bit later. So we're using Vienna as the alternate, which is absolutely fine. So if we go back to page 1, we've taken 7.5. And what I've done is made it up to 9 tons. 7.5, 8.5. So that's 1.5 tons extra plus our 800 contingency fuel gives us, that's quite a lot of fuel really. So we can hold for quite a while, probably more than you'd reasonably want to, certainly more than half an hour, which is allowing the thunderstorm to pass through, and then we can go in. But that gives us a bit of time if there's delays because of traffic, that sort of thing, while still keeping our alternate of Vienna, which we have in here. Right, excellent. So any questions so far? No. Hi Pavel, thank you for joining us. Excellent. So what we're going to do is we've got the APU up and running. Let's get some air in for the passengers. We can remove the ground power. And we'll do that. Let's close up the doors and get ourselves ready to go. We're just going to have to grab the ATIS from air traffic control. Now, I'm hoping you guys can hear this. Again, we've changed streaming software, so we shall see how that goes. It should be on 1185.
This is Bucharest LROP Information Hotel. 1630 arrival runway 08 left. Departure runway 08 right. Transition level 50. Wind runway 08 right, touchdown zone 240 degrees 5 knots. Cav OK. Temperature 262.14 QNH 1007 hectopascals. QFE 996 hectopascals. No significant change warning for bird activity runway 08 right. This was Bucharest LROP Information Hotel. This is Bucharest LROP.
Okay, that was Information Hotel. And interestingly, as it seems to be a theme of my streams, we are on a different runway to what I had planned in the box. So we'll swap that around. Quite simple. We're expecting 08 right. And it's going to be, again, as we filed our flight plan via SOKRU, we'll go to here. It's not going to be that chart anymore. So I suspect it'll be the RNAV. So SOKRU 1 kilo. Looks like the kilo departures from this runway. SOKRU 1 kilo. And if we have a look, that ties up better. 08 right, 220 knots around the turn, and off we go. Excellent. So let's have a look. We'll get our clearance flight level from air traffic control because it's not printed on here. 300 foot elevation. And noise abatement came up, which is something I want to talk about as well before we get going. And here's our routing. Let's get our clearance from air traffic control, and then we can make sure we actually load up the right performance now. So they have got the correct, or some frequencies here. Let's just check. 118, LROP ground 1217. There we go. 1217. So we'll do this, and then we'll just have a quick chat about noise abatement. Bucharest ground, good evening. Wizz Air 439, stand 218, Airbus A321, QNH 1007, request clearance for Budapest. Okay, that does not appear to have worked. Have I done something wrong? Why can't I hear them? I could hear the ATIS. 1217, and we've got the approach frequency. Can't hear you. Yes, very strange. What have I done wrong there? Let me just check, and got that. Push to talk. That's on. Yes. Okay. I'm going to try that again in a second.
Share 240 radio 5x5 with 439 RV3.
Was a 439 radio check?
5 by 5, sir.
Hey, excellent. No problem at all. Thank you. Was a 439 stand 218. Airbus A321 QNH 1007. Request departure clearance for Budapest.
Standby with the 439.
Rory, the RO, he forgot the audio for that sim, so you're speaking with him. Thank you very much for that. Excellent. Thank you.
With the 439, clear to destination. SOKRU 1 Mike departure. Runway 26 right. Initial climb level 280. Squawk would be 5401.
Was a 439 cleared to Budapest. SOKRU 1 Mike departure. Runway 26 right. Climb flight level 280. Squawk 5401. Was there 439?
With the 439, read back correct. Contact me for push and start.
Okay, was there 439? Okay, excellent. So I understand air traffic needs to be a little bit louder. I'll just turn up the volume for them. Okay, so guys, keep me in touch with the audio. Let's see, what have we got? Simon Woodman, thank you for the stream. If you could zoom in a little bit when showing something on the EFB or MCDU. Of course, I will do that, absolutely. Right, so what have we learnt there? Once again, I shouldn't have bothered changing the runway. They are using 26 right, which is what I had. I thought 26 left, but there we go. We're doing 26 right, and we're doing back to the SOKRU 1 mic. So here we go. No problem at all. We'll just change it back. That's why we get the clearance before we do too much performance, or would have done the performance 3 times. SOKRU 1 mic, climbing to flight level 280. So as like last time, I had set 49. So it's 280. Squawk of 5401. Okay. Right, so just let me zoom in a bit better on this if we're using it. We're not using that chart again. Back we go. We're going from 26 right, SOKRU 1 mic. You'd always expect the RNAV, to be honest, these days. There are traditional SIDs, but if you're in a modern airliner that's RNAV capable, these are the standard ones they use. They often have advantages for noise because they can go to any waypoint they sort of draw out, so they can be quite useful for that. That's a bit easier, 250 knots around the first turn, and then we head north, Utoki and SOKRU above 110. Let's check through the MCDU plan for that. So nice magenta stars shows us we're going to make those restrictions. 250 knots is no problem around the first turn, and up we go, leveling off on the route. Excellent. 1 hour flight time. If we check our charts, how does that compare? 1 hour 4, about 387 miles, which is excellent. 383, so it's looking pretty reasonable. Okay, so there's that done. There's our init B we did already, so that's the second I. So final part of our diff script will be performance. There we go. What have we got? 26 left is only landing because Delta is closed. There we go. Thanks for that. That's good to know. Shows how much I've been missing. I haven't been flying for so long. And let's go. ISCS performance. We got our weights in. We'll do our classic. As you guys know, I prefer flap 1 in the ToLiss. 26 right with no shift. Flaps are going to be set to 1, as we said. We're going to use a flex temp of 36. Which gives away the warm conditions today and the heavy weight. That's quite a high power setting for a reasonable length runway. And the speed, 162, 162. And 165. Transition altitude 4,000. That would be on the chart. That shouldn't change. It should just be in the databases. Only the transition level tends to change. I'm not sure where is it written? Where is it written? I'm quite happy that we're going up to flight level either way. Transition altitude 4,000, so yeah, that won't change. Excellent. Okay, so noise abatement. This has come up a few times. So for today, let's have a quick look. I've looked through the charts, and as came up in our Discord, I couldn't see any actual noise abatement written down, official procedures. So there's a few different ways it can be termed. We've got noise ICAO NADP, noise abatement departure procedures. As I said in my Q&A video, they are monitored, and we do try and obey them. There is some airlines that will only use 1 or 2 style of departures, so they won't want to have several versions of noise abatement, so they'll use a noise abatement procedure or they won't. Some will just use what's written in the manuals or the charts of that specific airport. I can't find one for here. If I go into this, the ToLiss seems to always put in 1500 and 1500. So we're at 300 foot elevation, as we can see, and it's just 1800, 1800. And there's nothing particularly shocking about that. That's perfectly reasonable. That could just be an airline preference. They'll have worked out how they want the engines to be burnt and how they want the fuel and where they think the noise is more sensitive. And if I can't see NADP, then I'm not going to change that really. A lot of airlines use 1000, to be honest, so I'd expect that really to default to 1300, 1300 or 1320, 1320. So I'll leave it as it is at 1500. I don't see any problem with that. Engine out acceleration, I would normally expect that to be 1000, but they go for 720. Again, there'll be all sorts of reasons, and terrain clearance, your airline will have its own procedures for that. The clearance that it uses will sometimes need to be raised. So sometimes this number will be higher, and your airline performance, whether it's a manual or whether you do it through the Airbus EFB, they've got iPad apps and all sorts, could mean that has to be higher. So if there's terrain in the vicinity, you might have to climb for higher on one engine before you can actually accelerate. The difference is if we accelerate on one engine, we're going to accelerate level. So here you would climb up to 720 and then level off to accelerate before beginning your climb again. Whereas obviously on a normal takeoff, we'd never do that. We'll end up continuing our climb as we go. What have we got here? So running the row, and also Alex's Aviation will be able to tell me some extra procedures from Romania, unless I've got that wrong, if there are any actual noise abatement that they're used to. Whiskey and Victor is not an entrance, by the way, only Oscar. Okay, thanks. So let's see what tax clearance we get. Good evening, Captain K. Peterkin. Thank you for coming along, and Ricardo as well. It seems like there's been a good conversation on here for the different co-pilot options, so that's great. Okay, so that is our diff strip. And okay, so you guys might recognize that noise. It's quite common in streaming land, I suppose. We've swapped. We are now using OBS Streamlabs, so it gives you that noise and notification. So thank you very much for subscribing. I've completely missed the name because it appeared on the other screen, so you'll see that I'm completely new to this and struggling along as I go. But yes, thank you very much. Let me see if I can find a better way of organizing this. So hopefully we can keep that up and running. Yes, so we're on Streamlabs now, so I'll talk about that as we go. There's a few little things we'll get started. A question here. Ryan Videos 94. That's a very kind comment. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying them. So yes, for now we are just working as we go like this. So my videos will always just be going up as usual and my streams onto here. But we are introducing Streamlabs to give you guys a bit of a chance to interact. So I have nothing set up on it at the moment, but it's at the moment we can use the little fun things like getting access to the Discord. You can type in a command and it can send it, or the flight plan, things like that. But that's a very kind. Thank you for saying that, Ryan. Swap yes, 1,000 subs, and then there's all sorts of things change on YouTube. We can get community posts out there and things like that, so we can get it set up a bit earlier. At the moment, I rely on putting it into the Discord, so you guys get a bit of advance notice, or just uploading the thumbnail. Mazen Hasuna, doesn't the SID take into noise abatement by default? Well, yes, it does. It would be designed in a certain way with all sorts of surveys from local areas and so on to work out noise abatement. But what they're talking about, the NADP procedures, is the vertical profile. So I take off and climb in this style with this 1820, 1820. So we can adjust that. Maybe we might reduce the thrust earlier and accelerate later, that sort of thing. But we'll talk about that as we go along if we get time. As I said, plan is to do the flight, get to Budapest, and then do our flight down the river just for a bit of fun and hopefully nicer weather. Right, I've rambled on long enough. We should really get going. We're meant to be get going in the next 5 minutes. So that is the performance done. So that's great. Let's now bring up our checklist. So I must apologize. Matteo Chui, who's in the comments, he's also very active on the Discord, has been working on this checklist. I need to get back to you, Matteo. I am looking through it. I sadly did not get a chance today either, so I do apologize. So let's see, we're on the before start procedure. So let's do the pre-plan. Yes. Pre-plan pushback. And Matteo kindly points out to me, we can just do connect.
Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
Excellent. So we are now connecting up, and then we'll go from there. We've got the correct runway. We know where we're going. So let's get push. Was there 439, stand 218, request push and start.
Wizz Air 439, push set approved, QNH 1007.
Okay, sound. Wizz Air 2470, descent 111, requesting pushback.
Wizz Air
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Push start approved. Wizz Air 2470.
And for Wizz Air 439 is facing east, okay, for 26 right.
Affirm for Wizz Air 439, facing east, QNH 1007.
Thank you, QNH 1007, push facing east, Wizz Air 439. Apologies about that, guys. I think I muted my microphone by accident. There we go. Right, so we have the tug connected. That's a push facing east. Let's get our flow done. So we've got that going. We're going to put the beacon on. Passengers are all strapped in and sat down, so that's good. We can set that to transponder. We're going to check the thrust levers are definitely at idle. If you leave them somewhere higher up and then start the engines, they will just go to that thrust. Very dangerous. Flight deck doors are all ready, windows are all closed. Okay, and we're going to push to face east. Let's get that ready. Oh, why can't I pre-plan the pushback?
Ground to cockpit,
There we go.
please show me where you want to go.
So, where is that line? Right, which way am I supposed to be facing? I think I want to go that way.
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release
Because
parking
I'm
brake.
currently facing south. Right, let's see. So, record that. Weather, runway, SID, fuel, we've done. Emergency briefing, yeah, that's certainly something an airline would do at this point before you get going. We've done ATC, done the SID, got our initial flight level, transponder code, transponder, beacons on, and then we got contact ATC and start the pushback. Excellent. So let's go. You guys might be screaming at me that I've got this wrong. Swap ES, can you increase the VATSIM audio? Okay, I will have a look, certainly. That should be possible. Let's try that. Okay. Off we go.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
There we go, wobbling all over the place as is traditional. We're okay to start engines though, so we've got the APU bleed running. Oh, just getting a message. Oh, up ground. That way. Excellent. Yeah, they're being very helpful. So let's start up both engines for this because it's not that far of a taxi. As we can see on our parking charts, we're going to face east. And then hopefully I did have an airport chart somewhere, which I managed to lose. We're departing from 26 right. So we'll go up Papa, Oscar. Yeah, I think we'll do both engines just to keep us focused as we go along. Also, at this weight, hot weather could be a nicer option as well. So starting engine 2. You can see there we have pressure. It's in line. And we'll start that. The gross weight doesn't appear until you have an engine running. So that's quite normal. Start that timer. I still need to find out. You guys asked me about the fact that the American Airlines seem to be more likely to start engine 1 then 2, whereas Europeans start 2 then 1. So it's really interesting. I don't know what the actual difference is. There we go, all looking good. So this checklist is pretty good so far. It's not really a checklist, it's more the actual procedures, which I quite like. So if you're new to the Airbus, this is quite a nice way to take you through it. It gives you exactly what you need to do with each switch as you go. Whereas a checklist obviously would tend to be done where you do the flow and then you do the checklist afterwards to confirm it's all done. There's not many checklists where you do something as you do the checklist. That's quite rare. Usually an unusual procedure would be done like that if you're starting the engines in a manual start, so on. Available. All looking good, knows what's doing. So once it's available, that's fine. We can start the other engine. Oh, I think we got the right line. That's good. Facing east, zoom in. How's it going? Richard V, that's a great point. Thanks for that. So I'll keep that in mind, definitely. Spray music, I totally understand.
Complete. Set parking brake.
Set the parking brake. There we go.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
There goes the tow, engine starting up. Yep, Spree is asking which company do I work for. I totally understand why you ask. I would ask as well. It would be interesting. I'd just like to keep that private. A couple of reasons. Obviously, we have to be careful about what we're perceived as representing. So I don't want to be seen as representing an entire airline or workforce. There are lots of very talented colleagues, and I wouldn't like to presume that I'm going to represent them. But also just for privacy reasons as well, we have to be careful. So I'll keep that quiet. But thank you for coming along and showing an interest. Tango Delta is departing out of London City EGLC. So they have you stuck to 3,000 feet per miles on Mars. Yes, they would, out of London City. That keeps you out of the way of the departures and arrivals for Heathrow and Gatwick. So yeah, you end up there.
Disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the right. We'll see you next time and have a great flight.
There we go. Off goes the ground crew. Engines started. Let's do this. So we've done the SD page, done the masters, and they're stabilized. Start the chrono. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll check they're warm. So we need to put the master switch to norm first. I don't know if I missed that. Was that on the previous one? And then we can turn off the APU bleed and the APU master. We don't need either of those. So yeah, the ignition has to go back to norm first. Trim wheel. So I'm going to do these as a little flow first. Quite common thing, but that's just because I'm used to flying on the line with two pilots. So I've turned off those. Don't need the engine anti-ice. And then the other pilot quite likely would arm those, set that to 0, go to make sure we have the right CG in, so 30, as is traditional, seems to be pretty standard on my streams. A little bit of a change though, a little bit nose down. 30 is done. That is set to transponder, and that should be running really. It doesn't have to be running, this doesn't do anything, it's just useful to see how long ago you push back, in case you lose some data in here later on, something like that. And there's the engine mode selected to norm, I see. So it's slightly out of order, I think. Speed brakes, rudder trim, and pushback crew. Okay, hopefully we've had the wave off. I probably missed that by now. Yeah, they've vanished. Okay, let's get ourselves into this situation. I'd have terrain on my side. No weather in our departure, so that's absolutely fine. We'll deal with the weather when we get to the other end. If somebody, so getting requests to increase the VATSIM audio, I hope it gets better as we go. If anyone would like the Discord link, you might, in fact, could someone try for me? If you put in !Discord into the chat, I'm hoping there might be a Nightbot, the bot that you see in other streams will give you that information, which hopefully helps you to get a few things. So we can use that for some other things later on as we go, like the flight plan, things like that. We got some good information. Flaps missing. Thank you, Lizzo5. Absolutely. Did I miss that off the checklist? There we go. So it should be, you'd arm those, set that to 0, set the flaps, and then do the trim. So that is a very good point. I'm very glad I looked into the chat before we went anywhere. So a couple of guys said Discord, and that doesn't seem to be working. Thank you for trying. Oh, it does work. Look at that. Fantastic. Thank you all for doing it. Brilliant. Right, let's get our taxi clearance. I'm blocking the whole airport now. Am I faffing around? Wizz Air 439 request taxi.
Wizz Air 439 and holding point 26 right by Charlie Papa Oscar.
Charlie Papa Oscar to 26 right, Wizz Air 439. Okay, so Charlie Papa Oscar. Should be pretty straightforward. Let's get those lights on. The checklist is quite clever. It should come up for us. We're going to check it's all clear all around, and as ever, we get our nice outside view, and then we can release the brakes. Off we go. And as you can see, the brakes are now released, and we are basically not moving. Let's see, yeah. At these weights, 78.8, yeah, it's possible you'd need a bit of thrust, especially in a hot day like this. So what are we going to? 30%, and there we go, we're starting to heave along a bit. It's good the runway swapped round, so we're taking off into a headwind. That's pretty standard. So that's a bit simpler. I was going to have to do the tailwind takeoff technique earlier, which is slightly different. I'll talk about that at another time, I guess. Right, so along we go. that's done. We'll just check through that we have all our bits in here. So we're going to take off, then we're going to make a right turn and a left turn. 250 knot speed restriction won't affect us. We've got our speeds loaded quite fast, but nothing too unusual there. Climb and nav armed. 1 FD2, 28,000. We're going to make that a flight level once we get airborne. And we got the elevation at 300. So that's all good. No noise abatement. We're just going to do the standard departure. Still got to sort out those rudders. Okay, so as ever on this stream, I'm terrible for doing the flight controls while moving. I will one day set up that disconnect button. The ToLiss does have the facility. So we'll go full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral. Let's get it really slow. Would not do this in real life, but just for us, full right and full left, neutral. What you'll find in the real Airbus is that speed, sort of, if you're doing 10 knots or above, or you're in a straight line like this, it's very much simpler to just steer using the rudder pedals. So you'll just use your feet, really. We don't need to use the tiller. The tiller's just for the sharper turns and getting around sort of 90-degree bends, that sort of thing. If you're trying to use the tiller at 30 knots along the ground, it's very sensitive. So if you think about it, you're moving the little nose wheel here, and there could be someone standing up in the back galley here. And if you start twitching, that back gets moved a surprising amount, as you can see there. So yeah, there's something we typically do would be taxi with the rudder pedals. You'll also find most pilots will either taxi perfectly on the center line, so the nose wheels go either side of these lights, or they'll taxi slightly off the center line, just so the nose wheel doesn't hit each one, because it's surprisingly loud. You get bang, bang, bang as you go along. Okay, left here at Papa, that's the next step. Once we're going north, I'll run through some of the last bits we need to do before takeoff. Thank you guys for all checking out that the link worked. You can also type in ! Flight plan, and it will give you the flight plan for today. I know I put both of those in the description, or at least I hope I did, but I just wanted to check that they do work. So here's Papa, heading north. It's going to be a night flight. I can't believe it. That'll be the first one we've done on this stream. I guess it makes sense as we're further east today. And up we go. Looks slightly uphill to me. I think I've said in the previous stream, it's amazing how much thrust you need if you're dealing with any sort of gradient. Airplanes are not like cars. They cannot just drive up a hill on the ground. A classic place for that would be some of the big airports. Istanbul's new airport has some sloped taxiways in it, I believe. Okay, so up here, and then we're taking the first right turn. Thank you, Pietro, for joining us today and for checking out that command. I'm glad it worked. Tango Delta says, seems like I have to ride the brakes a lot on the ToLiss A319 while taxiing. Yeah, that is common. The 319 will do that. And even the 321 will do that eventually, just perhaps a little bit slower at running away. But yeah, on two engines, the IE engines are slightly overpowered. The CFMs, maybe they have a slightly lower idle. They're a little bit simpler. The Neo engines as well, they don't tend to run away as much. Okay, so here would be an easy place to get it wrong. We don't want to go straight and right, or we'll end up at that entry point or no entry point. So we're going to take this first right here. Looks all clear. I do enjoy the lighting in X-Plane at night, so I hope you guys are enjoying it too. Hopefully the frame rate keeps up. Streamlabs seems to be making it slightly more difficult to keep a frame rate reasonable. In which case we may go back to what we used before. Okay, so we've got that arm. Let's get this radar on and ready to go. So a multiscan to auto. To be honest with you, this is a slightly older radar setup, but I'm going to set it on to 1. We're pointing down here. There's no one out there, so not really a concern. 4 degrees, so it's up and out the way. I'm actually going to put it a bit higher, about 6 degrees. Predicted wind shear to auto, and that should be good. The calibration should be to yeah, it's uncalibrated. Okay, good. So this is an old weather radar. I don't really, you don't see these very often. I'd like the Neo they do to update. The Neo weather radar is quite spectacular. It can scan weather in sort of slices, so you just choose the flight level you want to look at. Whereas in this one, I think I mentioned it in my previous video, we're going to have to adjust it as we go. Hopefully, if there are some real thunderstorms down in or up in Budapest, we'll get a good view of them on the radar and have a quick look at how we do that. We've gone to 8 minutes, so engines are warm. There we go. Still got our fuel on board. Right, let's do the final bits. So we've done that. Weather radar, set that to TRA now. No reason why not to. Set that to max. Tell the cabin we're going. Run the takeoff config. Pilot flying is going to have a performance page here. Pilot monitoring typically will have the flight plan page. There we go. So sunset coming in nicely. Excellent. I've set the autosave to 3 minutes. So if anyone remembers the disaster we had on our last stream, where shortly after takeoff we lost everything, the magic of the ToLiss autosave made a big difference. How's the stream quality for you guys? Are you getting the same detail as before, do you think? Let me know if you're not. I'll have to have a look at it. Swappy S, what are your graphic settings? Yeah, maybe I'll show you on the way. Pretty much textures are set to high, I think. I have got HDR enabled, but not HDR SSAO, so the lower version of that. Otherwise, no ground shadows, no low reflection detail, because I couldn't see much difference either way with the reflection detail, except on my frame rate. And I've got the auto gen, or it's called auto gen in the FSX, the world object set quite high, but like I say, no ground scenery shadows. That seemed to cause a big hit on the frame rate for me. I will put that sort of thing into the Streamlabs, and then you guys will be able to find out a bit more easily. Saba Temesvari, hey, this is my first time I catch you live and coming to my hometown. Excellent. Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for coming along. I'm glad you're joining us. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And like I said, once we get to Budapest, the plan is to do a little VFR hop and fly down the Danube as Wizz Air did at their air show. Masen Hasoon, what are the two numbers in the box under tear on the ND? Great question. So this is showing the lowest and highest terrain that's being displayed on the ND. So that 24 is this little red area here. Probably that 00 is the rest of it. So it's at the same as us. It's not accurate for navigating, because if there was lots of red, it wouldn't tell me which part is 24. It just shows me that there is something in this display of 2,400 feet. So you have to be careful with that. It's just for awareness of what's around you. In case you've lost completely your situational awareness, then that will give you an idea. We typically would use our charts to work out where the terrain is around us. Right, let's get ourselves round to the holding point. I think what we'll do is we'll get in the air and then I'll answer a few more of the questions as we go. I was hoping the checklist would appear. We may get RAS working as well. Let's see.
Wizz Air 439.
Wizz Air 439, go ahead.
Wizz Air 439, contact Tower 120.9. Have a safe flight. See you again. Bye bye.
120.9 at Wizz Air 439. Thank you for your help. Goodbye.
Good luck with your team.
Thanks. That's very kind of him. So 120.9.
Same thing. Contact Tower 120.9. Have a safe flight. Bye bye.
Oh, that's fun. Are they just behind us?
Switch it to Tower 120.9.
Let's have a look before we get going. Oh, let's stop the airplane. Oh dear. How embarrassing. Oh, we're still on the taxiway, and there's the other Wizz Air coming along behind us. Excellent. So let's check this out. Was that 1209? Tower 1209. Yes, excellent. Bucharest Tower was Air 439, holding point 26 right. We're ready. How much taxi fuel do we use? Yeah, full 300 kilos because of my slow taxiing from when we got our pushback. Might have to try that again. Bucharest Tower, good evening, was Air 439. (1209) LROP Tower 1209. Oh dear, have I done something wrong again? Was there 439 at the holding point? Do you read me?
Wizz Air 439 affirmative. Good evening. Wind 240 degrees, 4 knots. Clear for takeoff. Runway 26 right.
Clear for takeoff. 26 right. Was there 439? Thank you. Okay, so before we enter the runway, let's get the strobes on. Lights are all on, and we'll get that set to takeoff. We're going to do a PAX off takeoff because of that performance. let's imagine that we needed to for performance reasons. Brakes released, clear on the approach. Interestingly, because of where our nose was, we'd actually gone over the line, so no part of the aircraft can cross that line. So that would have really been a breach, so you'd end up having to file a report for that. So done the gross weight. That's a good point. Let's have a look. 78.7. V-speeds flex, fuel on board. Yeah, we've got our 8.7 as we wanted. Bleeds and packs are off. That's all done. And then
approaching 26 right.
A few too many things there, so I'll skip those for now because I've done those as part of the flow, but that's still quite good stuff. That's stuff that needs to get done. Okay, approaching 26 right as we wanted. We are cleared for takeoff. So I'm going to start the timer just as we get a little bit closer. Bring up the PFD. And it's still taking a bit of thrust to heave us up onto the runway. So I wouldn't set thrust until we're pointing within 10, 20 degrees. Well, even then, you might consider spooling up the engines, but
26 right.
Okay, let's go to 50%. Half side stick forwards and take off. 2 clicks forwards. We've got Manflex 36, SRS runway. Order thrust is armed. Thrust is set.
Airbus A321 will land at runway.
8200 knots, releasing that pressure. Yeah, quite high speeds today. So looking out to the end of the runway, small inputs to keep us on that center line. And there's our rotate, V1 and rotate together. Up we go, 3 degrees a second, releasing that rudder as we get the nose in the air. Positive climb, gears coming up into nav mode. And the flight director's now nice and smooth.
Contact Bucharest approach 118.250. Goodbye.
118.250 was at 439. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay, away we go. I'll contact them shortly. Let's just do this. Got that right turn coming soon. Excellent. So through 1500 feet above the ground, 1 click back, climb thrust, and it goes into thrust climb, climb and auto thrust, lowering the nose and accelerating. Beautiful, beautiful evening. Look at that sunset. Excellent. And we're flying into the daylight a little bit. Autopilot 1 can go on now. Flaps are at 1, so we're not going to do anything until we're through the S speed. And we'll see the auto retraction because of our heavy weight. I'm going to monitor that first before I go and check in. And then we'll have a look at this procedure. There's the auto retraction, so flaps going in, we just end up with slats at 1. There was a question about this, a great question came up in one of the comments on the videos. I must get around to that. Through the S speeds, flaps to 0. Yeah, I'm running a bit behind on YouTube replies. I do apologise if anyone's waiting on an answer there. And here we go. Excellent. So air pack 1 off, air pack 2 off. So as soon as the thrust went to climb, I should have gone up here and done these. So there's pack 1. You put it on and then you wait 10 seconds, master caution, and we would check that is the caution we think it is. You never just assume. You wait 10 seconds because otherwise it could hurt everyone's ears if you do both at the same time. Pack 2. Okay, flaps are at 0. Disarm that. Get rid of those lights. 118.250. 118.250. Okay, going up to flight level. Let's set standards. Standard is there. Flight level 280 is in. Excellent. Bucharest, good evening. Was there 439. Climbing flight level 280 on the SOKRU 1 mic.
With 439er, good evening. Bucharest approach. Radar identified. Proceed direct SOKRU.
Thank you, direct SOKRU. Was there 439. Okay, direct to SOKRU. Oh, I like the lighting as well on the MCDU. SOKRU nav. Makes sense. And in it goes. Good. Wonder, is the dome light on? Off. Let's have it off while the flight deck's lit up by the sunset. Right, landing gears up. Autopilot above, let's say above 1,000 feet. Well, you can actually put the autopilot in. I think there's a time. It's about 4 to 5 seconds after liftoff. You don't have to wait to 1,000. you can't put it in until the flight control laws have blended. So in takeoff, they go from direct to normal law, which I showed in some of my videos on YouTube if you're interested. But it takes a little bit of time. So until it's done that, you can't use the autopilot. But certainly some airliners, you do have to wait to 1,000 feet. The Airbus, actually not, surprisingly. It's quite impressive. And there's some more info, NADPs. That's quite good. So thrusters at climb, flaps, speed brakes, pack 2, wait 10 seconds, absolutely, pack 1, runway internal flights off. And we contacted ATC, excellent. And we've gone to standards. Okay, right, let's see what happens when we get to 10,000 feet, which we're nearly there. Quick look into the chat. So, stream quality is a bit low compared to before. That's very interesting. Captain Mateo, true. Reflections for water reflection. That's a great piece of knowledge. Thank you for that. So that would explain it. Yeah, my laptop can't handle good water reflections, so I've been turning that off. So through 10,000 feet up to 280. Let's get rid of those landing lights now as we accelerate, or they'll make a noise in the cabin. Nice and smooth. Let the passengers walk around. And we'd go into here. Radnavs we weren't using because we did an RNAV departure. Secondary, we're just going to copy it so it matches. Nice and neat. And I'm going to leave it back on performance. So we've done the landing lights, done the seat belts. Great one. Would put that to airport so we can have a look at what's around. There is still a restriction at SOKRU, so you could consider leaving it there to remind you. But now I'm above 11,000 or flight level 110. I'm not too concerned, so I'm going to put it to airport. Optimum, and then we'll check the fuel. So yeah, a few complaints about low quality. I do apologise for that in the stream. I'm not going to fiddle with the settings now. I think I can see it looks lower quality as well, so that is a little bit frustrating. I'm not sure why it's done that, but I will not fiddle with it now, or we'll end up in a bit of a disaster. Ian Morris looks good to me using VR. So yeah, VR obviously uses a lower resolution for most things. Not the HD quality. I'm glad it's not bad, so that's useful. So I apologise for that, the stream quality, guys. We'll get that sorted for the next one. I tried to use exactly the same settings as before into Streamlabs, but it's just not really happened like that. Ian Morris, when taxiing, do you aim for the taxi line to be under the aircraft at a certain point from your seated perspective? Yes, the taxi line would look to go in between these two screens. So straight down that line there should be pretty much on the centre line. Simon Taylor, have you got X-Vision or are the graphics default? No, the graphics are entirely default. I've been working on getting some new scenery added in, as some guys on Discord have been very helpful with that. So that's in process, but I didn't get a chance to test it properly before today, and I didn't want to risk it. Just as a side note, I'm at Costin X50, and look at this. So we're going to go through that, and you see it carries on. The airplane has momentum, and the Airbus is quite lazy. It won't pitch up or pitch down too aggressively. It doesn't want to with the autopilot in. So you'll see that we'll overshoot slightly. And to be honest with you, that's a bit too close. If we were to encounter a change in that headwind, let's say that headwind increased by 5 knots, 10 knots, we'll go right up to that red bar. So at Costin X50, that's probably too high. Let's try 30, and it will reduce down a bit. We don't need to be going that fast. It's only a short flight. In fact, change of plan. Let's go to 10. I wanted to give a bit of time at the other end, but I think we're going to have plenty of time. It's quite a short flight here. What else have we got? Buki Malice has a question. They entered the flight in the MCDU. There was a hole built into the route. The problem is it was round. A round hold would suggest that the distance on the holding leg was 0 as opposed to 1 minute, which I think actually Liz05 has answered. Yeah, length of time in the hold. So if you have 0 in there, it might be round, or if it's just trying to immediately leave the hold. Something like that could cause that. Emre Uzum, thanks for taking your time for us. Just a question, is the ToLiss flight dynamics? 129.75 was there 439. Thank you, goodbye. 129.75. I think pretty shortly we're going to have to start getting ready for our arrival, or I'll do my usual and end up without any information ready. Control was there 439, climbing flight level 280 to SOKRU. Climb flight level 340, direct to DEGET, thank you. Was there 439. So I'll do the flight level first, 340. I tend to try and do the flight levels first because I think it's the one that's easy to get wrong whereas a direct there's a little bit of room. It's not, but again, going through that flight level by a couple of 100 feet is an altitude bust and a problem. So make sure we get that entered. So there we go, direct to DEGET, sensible, and off we go. We see this line here. That's from the from the arrival, which we'll look at shortly. So we're nearly up there. Simon Waterman, why is it recommended to switch IRS1 on first, IRS3 secondly, and the IRS in the middle at the end? Actually, if you do it you're actually doing IR1, IR2, and then the middle one is IR3. So they're associated with the sides. IR1 for the captain, IR2 for the FO, IR3 for the standby system. So the reason we do them in that order is typically just for habit, so that you know which is number 1, which is number 2, which is number 3, because you don't want to, in a situation where you need to adjust these or anything like that, very rare, but you don't want to get the wrong one. And the ADRs below are the same, ADR1, ADR2, and then ADR3 is in the middle. So they're associated with each side to make sure you don't get it wrong. Yeah, the ToLiss flight dynamics, I think they are pretty realistic. There's a few things I think are a little bit unrealistic. I show in my stalling video, I think some of the stall recovery is a little bit easier in the ToLiss than in the real aeroplane. It's a little more sensitive, the real aeroplane. I think some of the performance figures on takeoff are slightly high on the speeds, but generally I find it to be quite good. I'm going to perhaps consider changing joystick to one with a bit more weight on it to then get the true comparison. Glenn Chambers, what are the 2 dings just after takeoff? It could possibly be when the wheels come up. No smoking signs. Sorry, I thought I was talking about. So no smoking signs. They're set to auto, you see. So the exit signs will actually be on as well when the gear's down. And when they come up, it dings, and those lights go off. Captain Swap ES, thank you. Yep, I'm glad you guys are watching anyway. I'm sorry about the quality. As I say, it will get changed in the future. Captain Matteo Chui. Oh, I think he's in the was there behind us actually. Now that makes sense. If you bring up the checklist setup and activate Copilot, you don't have to check the actions. That's great. I may consider doing that for the next time. Absolutely. Okay, so unusual as usual, as becomes a theme for my videos. But let's get rid of these charts and get ourselves set up for our arrival. LH Bravo Papa for Budapest. Lots and lots of frequencies, and the latest wind there is westerly winds, few CBs at 3.3. So reasonable winds. That's a bit better than we saw earlier. Temperature 20 degrees, QNH 1001. Now I'm expecting to arrive via KEZAL, but it's going to be a bit difficult to work out which approach they want, because they got 2 directions, 4 potential runways, sounding like using the westerly end. So let's have a look. Let's bring up the airport chart, gives us the best overview. I do like this sun lighting up the flight deck like this. Very nice. This is where X-Plane really impresses me. Let's get a bit of a flyby, just for the fun of it. Excellent. So still climbing, and you can see here quite a reasonably slow rate of climb. Worth having a look at our progress page. Oh, I feel that frame rate dropping. We may lose Maxim in a second, in which case, if I close that, we might see an improvement. Okay, right, yes, that's helped. Okay, so max 366, optimum 345, so 340 should be no issue at all. However, even then, quite a gentle rate of climb. See Muffin Man. I think rubber band effect isn't as good as it could be. Flight factor A320 hits it perfectly. Feels heavy to get it off the ground. That's interesting, See Muffin Man. I haven't tried the flight factor, so to compare it is a little bit tricky. Something the ToLiss does quite nicely is that as you pass through 10 degrees, you have to pull a bit harder to get the airplane into the air. That's questions come up on some of my videos. It's actually because as you're taking off and the tail lowers as you rotate the aircraft, the tailplane goes into ground effect, and it becomes a little bit more efficient, and it can just affect the dynamics on the side stick. So you end up sometimes having to pull a bit more The Neo aircraft use a different way to rotate. They actually don't work like that. So it's not noticeable on those. You can just hold the same side stick position and you're just commanding that rate of rotation, that pitch up. But there you go. But interesting, yeah, I'll have to try the Flight Factor one day. It's just a little bit expensive for now, but the graphics look fantastic. Mazin is asking, how close would you say the ToLiss compares to the real aircraft when it comes to systems and replication of performance? Well, it's very good. We've talked before, it misses some vertical things. So if we go off of onto a heading, I can't see the vertical profile. It shows it only in nav mode. So it'll be nice to see that added to, but they are working on it. So they've done a few updates even since I got hold of the ToLiss. I bought it in, I think, March. So they've done quite a few updates, improved the PFD colorings, that sort of thing. So I'm optimistic that we'll see more improvements come. It's got things like the radial fixed info page, the radial in. So these are all really good features that are quite impressive. I haven't tried the FS Labs on Prepared or FSX, but I believe that's probably a little bit more comprehensive. That's got the ACARS systems and so on, but that's a more mature product. It's been around for a few years now. Tango Delta, yeah, I agree. I love the views. This is quite a pretty flight we've seen so far. Zimmerman gets off the ground a bit too easily. I think it's partly gets off the ground because of the way the performance seems to be working in the ToLiss inbuilt performance system. I think the speeds are slightly too high. Yeah, the FPS on Flight Factor, this has come up before, and I suspect my laptop won't be able to run it for the streams. But there we go. And also, yeah, not ready for Vulcan, as Richard V is talking about there. Ian Morris, if 321 is a slow climber, would you use a step climb? Yes, potentially. If you're doing a longer flight, optimum is 345, so we'd go at 34, and then that will rise to 36, and we'll go to 36. I wouldn't go to 36 now because it's too close, the recommended max, at 600 feet from the recommended max. If it's perfectly smooth, you could do it, but most pilots would prefer not to. Any turbulence and things like that, you'll have not much room between your overspeed and your underspeed. It's called coffin corner. The higher you get, the closer to those two limits. Okay, so let's start preparing. So westerly winds. I'm guessing 3-1 right. Alternatively, it would be landing on 1-3 right. They tend to land like that, I believe, and that way we can vacate in towards the terminal or land in, and then shorter taxi out to take off. Right. Let's follow this checklist, why not? So here we go, fuel on board 5.8, plenty of fuel, probably a little bit heavy, but we're just getting under max anyway, so that's done. Next, transponder to below, yeah, we'll do that. And there's the ranges, absolutely, -27 to +27 on all, below is -9 to +27. So you can see it doesn't actually reduce your view above you, it just gives you more view below. In fact, let's set that to that, and hopefully we'll get some returns on TCAS. We're starting to see some clouds ahead. So I'm going to take off terrain. Co-pilot can have that. Don't need to be timing anymore. And let's hope we can get some returns on the radar. Let's set that to weather plus turbulence. Okay. So still got a couple of thousand feet to go. Let's start getting ready for LHBP ATIS. 132-375, and we'll actually have that ready in time, hopefully. 132-375. It's very good of them to have all this air traffic control going today. Just to say thank you to all of you to take your Friday evenings to come and watch the stream. It is appreciated. Oh, quite a few people talking there. 32375. Yeah, so quite very kind of you all to take your time out to come and have a look. Edward Job, late to the party. This is using Streamlabs now, so there's a couple of things you can type in, but it just seems to have affected our quality slightly, so we need to work on that to get it better. Swappy S is saying don't get the Flight Factor if you're on Vulcan, it's not supported. So that's yeah, certainly that's one issue that I have to keep in mind for now. Okay, let's have a look. Coming up to our last 1,000 feet to go, so we'll watch the level off, and then I'll get that ATIS. A little bit tricky doing voice ATIS like this because, of course, the other pilot isn't here to keep talking to the radio. Ah, we've got some traffic. Excellent. Plus 300 feet. So when the diamond's empty like that, it means that they are not considered a threat. They're just another aircraft. It would go solid if they're getting too close, and obviously yellow for a traffic alert. Starting to get a bit turbulent now. Not sure what level they're at. I'd expect to see an up or down arrow for their climb or descent, but there we go. They seem to be sitting at 334, strangely. Usually these are pretty accurate, so not in terms of position, but just altitude. So it would, if you were at 340 and they're at 340, it'll just say 00. Perhaps it's somebody overtaking me. So 120 miles to top of descent, although I suspect that's not quite accurate. How do you guys get the ATIS? It's a question I've been wondering. When you're single pilot, do you guys tell air traffic you're off frequency for a while? I've seen a few people do that. I think there's Mateo behind us, climbing up behind us. So Mac, out cruise. There we go, leveled off. We can put the TCAS without moving the flaps. So we'll go across. Put that to below, not above, below. There we go. All the other things up there looking good. Let's do a nice systems check. Very traditional. All looking very good. This display, NAC, I assume it's talking about the nacelle, but I'm not entirely sure. If anyone knows, tell me. I haven't flown an Airbus that uses that. As I said before, lots of different features on the Airbus that can change. All looking good. Pressurizing, 7,100 feet cabin altitude. Absolutely fine. We're not cruising very high. That goes up to about 8,000 feet on the higher flight levels. Electricity, Gen 1 working a little bit harder than Gen 2. But really, you'd get an alert on the ECAM if there were any problems coming here. The hydraulics are interesting. When the gear is up, these can be, green might be a little bit more full, and then when it's down, they go up and down depending on where some of the positioning is on the flight controls and the gear, that sort of thing. Fuel, again, I think I've said before, fuel temperature should really be in here. It's useful to keep an eye on. Wouldn't be an issue at this time of year, but there we go. APU, though, they updated this. Amber crosses, no power to it. The Vadecs are off. Cabin is a reasonable temperature. That looks pretty good. Pumping in the cold air. Slides are all armed. Excellent. Okay. Right. So we've done that. And we can tick that next. Let's try and get hold of an ATIS. Let's see what people say. Just get it quickly. However, I sometimes get it via text. As IRL, you could do that. Yeah. That's a good point. How do you get it via text? I'm using Xpilot. Aha, excellent. I just double clicked it on Xpilot. That's a great tip. Thank you very much for that. So from CMFMN, because yeah, that makes it a lot easier when there's just one of you. Okay, so I'll read it out to you guys. It's that's Bucharest. I've got the wrong one. I need the LHBP. There we go. Budapest. Budapest is on information kilo at time of 1743. Wow, this is going to be very entertaining for you guys, I'm sure. But there we go. ILS is 31 right or 31 left. Well, we want definitely 31 right so that we have a short taxi in. But they're using both runways, so we may not get that choice. Transition level is 120. Quite important. 270 at 8. So the winds have been nice and calm, unlike our forecast. So that's excellent news. Those thunderstorms seem to have passed through for now. Oh, here's an interesting one. It's cab okay with light showers of rain. Let's just make sure. There we go. Light showers of rain. Broken 5-5. So cab okay just means it's clear up to 5,000 feet above the airport. So yeah, it could be broken at 5-5. They'd normally just report that though. It's unusual to have cab okay and the clouds. Temperature plus 19. Plus 15 dew point, so quite a humid day. QNH 1002 hectopascals now with no SIG. That's information kilo. That is a great tip. Thank you for that, guys. I really like that. Richard V, you can get Active Sky to use VATSIM weather automatically. Yeah, Active Sky's come up in the Discord, so I need to have a look at that because it can give us the ATIS, as Richard is saying. Excellent. And another frequency for departure. That's very good. Okay, right. I'm just realizing the checklist is probably hidden slightly by my stream overlay, so apologies for that. So let's start preparing. 3-1 right. I'm going to hope on 3-1 right. So there's a flight plan. Do our little top hat, radnavs. So our arrival today we've got the airport, and let's get parking stands. Hopefully that's the main apron. Nope, that's absolutely not what the one I intended. So we'll try apron 2. There we go, that looks more likely. And that'll be absolutely fine. Taxi procedure for arriving, so they may have a taxi in and out procedure. Yeah, there you go. So we'll have that ready in case we need it. Hopefully we'll come up here. Wilco was FE 439. He wants 320 at DEGET. Runway 31 right. Thank you, was 439. 31 right. Excellent. That's exactly what we were hoping for. 320 at DEGET. So if I put that into here, just to show you guys, I'm sure you could work it out yourselves, but if I put in /320, so at 320, and put it in as an altitude constraint, don't need to put the slash. Now I'm pretty sure you can type that in into the main page, but there we go, it's in there now, so that should readjust the descent point to slightly earlier. I think he said 320. Got some traffic passing above us, 1,000 feet. Are we going to see them go by? Nope. Oh, excellent colours. Let's enjoy the view for a little bit. Really nice. Matching our livery quite well. Cruising along nicely. Okay. So we'll call him in about 10. But let's do 20 miles before, just to give us a chance to get that descent in. Okay, so that was flight plan. And that's 31 right. So they're still saying CB's there, but that's fine. So let's go to approach. And he's very kind. He told us 31 right. Localizer 3. Wow, see, this is the problem with runways 31 and 13 is it's very easy to get the wrong charts up. That's runway 31 right. So you guys tell me if at any point I say or do the wrong thing with these checklists. So if we look through, I'm going to zoom in here and now scroll through. So yeah, absolutely. Now I can see why you guys are asking if it's possible to be zoomed in a bit more. It's pretty blurry stream at the moment, so hopefully you guys can see that a bit better. Right, let's go. So through the arrival, and then you see it takes us off down to Ulpak, so that's going to be the actual star. So I'll just get that for you as well. Not approach, arrival. And I'm expecting the KEZAL arrival, so that's going to be the KEZAL. We went for, I think it's the 1 hotel. Yep, KEZAL 1 hotel. Arnav arrival. And as we can see, that brings us in and then heads us off downwind on that vector. And this is not uncommon. So if I go back to the flight plan, here we go. KEZAL and then Okrit, Zurfa, through these Arnav waypoints with these hideous names that just letters and numbers, but that's because there's just so many of them. And then Ulpaks and then downwind at 230 knots, absolutely fine. It's all coded in here. And then off we go on that heading. And the idea is if air traffic tells us nothing, we carry on down there, 230 knots, 4,000 feet. And hopefully that's in here. But what we can see is the airplane is actually going to be at flight level 69 because it sees all this track mileage and it thinks, oh, well, I don't need to descend. Not very good. Because that would mean that we'd be 7,000 feet here, and we might want to be down ready for the ILS there. So I'll need to just keep my own vertical planning. Some people might put in their own constraint, so they could say, I want you to be, let's say, by NICRA, I want you to be at 4,000 feet. So you could type it in, but I won't bother today. We'll see what the rate of vectoring, because we could get a straight in anyway, in which case that won't really matter, because we're not going to fly all of this big loop. We'll see how busy it gets. Let's bring up the ILS chart. So that would be if we put in an arrival, but I don't want to do that yet because I'm concerned that I want to be able to be ready to fly that RNAV. But we can adjust that as we go. It's going to be the Bravo Papa Romeo 1095, not tuned yet. As we know in the ToLiss, it seems to tune it slightly later than we would expect in real life. Other than that, where's the DME from? Always worth checking. Got different missed approaches for the RNAV and conventional, so we can do the RNAV one. So we'll check that shortly. And where's it basing its DME from? Here we got Budapest 109.5 ILS DME. Yep, so we can just use that. Excellent. We're going to do the RNAV go around, so I won't tune in these. I won't hard tune those other VORs. Progress page, Lima Hotel Bravo Papa, and it's going to be 3-1 right. 151 miles from 34,000 feet, so we're straight in from here. We could do even for the next sort of 20 miles. How are we doing with our waypoint? Actually, let's not miss that descent after he so kindly reminded us early that we need to do that. Still got a bit of room, 40 miles. Excellent. Just going to remove the descent procedure for now, just while I do this. As I said, Matteo, I will get back to you on that checklist later. I will have a go through it. Ricardo, Captain, how do you prepare for ATC directing to a waypoint that is not in your flight plan? I had a VATSIM ATC heading and direct to. It was a mad rush to sort out the waypoint spelling. Happened to me on VATSIM on arrival. That's unusual on arrival, but it does happen. Air traffic may just ask you to go to a waypoint that may not be on your flight plan. They try to, because they know those are ones you're ready for. So if you just don't know, yeah, I would ask them to spell it. So Delta Echo Golf Echo Tango, and then I can just type it in. Once you've typed it in, you can see where it fits in with your flight plan, and then you may need to clarify with air traffic, or it may become obvious how it sequences. But yeah, it's quite tricky, and that sort of thing is where having two pilots is very useful, especially late on the approach. And it just highlights that workload can be very high, even for two pilots when everything else is fine, just when something else changes. Right, let's have a look at this go around now. So, put that back to plan, zoom in. So climb to Bravo Papa 863. So there's the ILS, Bravo Papa 863. Turn right, it's maximum 185. Now that's interesting. So we have to keep flat 1 out for that turn. Direct to Tango Papa Sierra VOR, enter the hold. Continue climb to 3,000. At 3,000, enter the hold. So 3,000 feet is going to be our go around altitude. In performance, let's put in our ATIS. QNH was 1002. Temperature was a rather pleasant 19 degrees for this time of day, even with the showers of rain around. The wind 270 at 8. I suspect that could be changing a lot if the storms are passing through. And let's put in that MDA. So scroll all the way down. We are straight in landing for 3-1 right. And as far as I'm aware, everything's operational. Cat C 623 into the MDA. Config full landing. Now, we'd obviously do our performance and work out what we could do. I'm curious here. I think today could be a flap 3 day. It's a long runway, 3-1 right. And there's the parking stands. There's the airport chart, taxi routing. Let's see, where do they write the distance here? It may not be on there. If anyone knows, we've got the elevation 500 feet, so that's something to account for when we're thinking of our terrain separation. We're 500 feet closer to the terrain than we realise. We've got on our one for the missed approach. What I was looking for was a nice simple airport chart. There we go, 3,700 metre runway. Let's go flap 3. Config 3 on there, and that's going to help us roll out. Gives us a high VAP, so we'll use up the brakes, but it'll be something interesting to show you. And we'll select landing flap 3 up here, and then we need to check on here, GPOS flap 3. Cool. So now I'm going to forget that. On approach, you'll see me accidentally select flap 4. So hopefully I don't do that, and we should be flap 3. You'd hope the other pilot would remind you. Haven't seen any weather appearing. Up here in the cruise, you'd set that slightly down, and you'd expect to hopefully see something useful at the bottom. So you'd see maybe a bit of the terrain feedback, and then you'll know that the radar's working. 20 miles to go. What I could do, as I've shown in one of my fix videos, is if I put in a fix ring around DEGET. Let's hope I'm not being too clever here. Let's do 15. So radius 15, press it again, and now we get that point. So at that point, I'm going to start my descent. Heading track first. Yeah, see that's slightly clunky. I don't use that method much. There is a simpler way that doesn't seem to work in the ToLiss, where you could just type it in and /-, but it doesn't seem to work. But there we go. There's that waypoint. Right, so have we done our hat? We've done our flight plan, done our RadNav, done our progress page, our performance. was in with the minima, and we decided 3,000 feet. So I'm going to put that in here because if we have an engine failure and we go around, then we'll have to climb to 3,000 feet due to the fact that our acceleration will be level, as I talked about earlier. But if we're doing a normal go around, 2,000 is absolutely fine. In fact, 2,000 is quite close to the level of altitude, so that would be something to be aware of. You're only climbing to 2,500 feet above the ground. Fuel prediction, 3 tons extra, plenty of fuel. Thankfully, we are approaching our max landing weight now in this aeroplane. Secondary flight plan, I'm just going to make it a copy. Then it has all the performance in. They could swap runways. If they do, we'll just have to type that in as we go. But we've been told what to expect, so I'm pretty optimistic. Okay, looking pretty good. So we've talked about that, talked about our landing performance. So flap 3 will use low auto brake. If we're landing flap 3, the nose will be higher. We need to watch out for our 7.5 degree pitch. I haven't done many flap 3s in the ToLiss, so I'll be curious to see how the performance handles, but we have to be a little bit wary at that pitch angle. If we were landing with medium auto brake and we land flap 3, it's not great because you're landing faster with extra energy, and then you're trying to use medium auto brakes to slow down faster, so you put a lot of energy into the brakes, so it's not very efficient. It also could mean that if the nose is high, so if we land and we're at 7.5 degrees pitch, and then the medium auto brake, it kicks in quicker than low auto brake, and you find the nose comes down so fast, it can be a little bit difficult to stop the nose coming down heavy. All right, let's get our descent. Wizz Air 439, request descent. Descent flight level 320, Wizz Air 439. 320. That's in, and I'm just going to do a nice gentle 1,000 feet per minute. Vertical speed 1,000, there it is. We've got our out armed at 320. Hopefully that will show up on here. I'm going to go back to constraints because we know where we're going. The weather seems fine. We'd get our alternate weather as well, and it looks beautiful out the window. I think Richard said flying at sunset is one of his favourite things to do in X-Plane, and I can definitely see why. Lovely. See a little bit of turbulence bouncing the wings up and down. I haven't seen it sort of vibrate like that. 120-375 was Air 439. Goodbye. Excellent. So we're going to get coverage the whole way. 120-375. Budapest, good evening. Wizz Air 439, descending flight level 320 to DEGET. We're 321 with information kilo.
Air 439, good evening, radar contact, continue descent to flight level 140.
Continue to descend, flight level 140, Wizz Air 439. 140. And now we need to start thinking about distance. So 100 miles to go, 32,000 feet. So am I high? What do you guys think? I'll give it a couple of seconds. There is a delay in the stream, so I'm going to hope that someone tells me yes I am, because I think, as we talked about earlier, this green is misleading. We're actually high on the profile already, because if I get a straight in, I would not be ready to do it yet.
439, I expect ILS 31 right, proceed direct Oksana.
Expect ILS 31 right, direct Oksana, was Air 439. So that's confirming what we thought. And here we go. That wasn't in there. So let's see, we'll have a look at our ILS chart and see if I've missed it. Oksana is actually one of the transitions. So what I'm going to do, in the primary, go to arrival, ILS 31 right, no star, because we're going already to Oksana, insert, and now to clear it out, direct to Oksana, and there we go. And now it will be accurate. Our vertical profile will be realistic. So we're 3,000 feet high. If I increase that speed, it wants us to descend. It's already activated the approach phase. That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. So in that case, yeah, we'll need to get our height off straight in. Sorry, guys, I missed a few questions. Been a few things going on, but certainly if I don't get the chance as we land, I will do it. Captain, yeah, we talked about the spelling. Can you please explain how the wind request works and how do we use it in what phases? Yeah, so in the real airplane, to be honest with you, you just do it once in init, wind, and it should be in there. If I go now, wind request did it for the climb. See, this seems to be a thing that happens. It's gone straight through to descent. It's got none. Yeah, so you could type something in, I suppose. Alternatively, on the NIPB page before you go, depending on the setup your airline has, you can actually just put in a component. So a short flight like this, you could just say the overall average of the wind being +10 or -10 to give you better predictions. It's come up on the Discord a lot. ATC is a bit quiet. Okay, yeah, Infinite 224. Sorry about that. We're having a few issues with the streaming software today, so hopefully it gets better as we get lower down. Let me see. When I load up the streaming software, we do struggle a little bit. Is the audio in the aeroplane, the ambient sounds, okay? Can you hear things? Let's see. I'm just going to up that. Do let me know if that's too loud, guys, in the background. I have to keep the streaming window closed so I can't see my audio volumes, because otherwise my laptop does not like it. And here we go. Look at that, heading straight for an overspeed. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's no good. Bring out the speed brakes. And you see there how easy that is to do. Let's get that right back. 7.5. Speed brakes to full. And the wind's gone to 50 knots. So any sort of wind change and you can have that speed run away from you really easily. Let's slow that right down. Or even better, let's convert it to a speed. I know I can fly at 310 knots, so let's just set that. We've got 77 miles, we're at 20,000 feet, we're well in on the profile. But you'll watch this, if I bring the speed brakes in, the risk is it's very slow at raising the nose, so it's just not raising it as fast as I'd like. So you can see that it's going to struggle to keep that speed back. And here we go. Now it's probably starting to get under control. Yeah, very interesting. I don't know why it usually reduces that down towards a transition, but it didn't seem to transition itself that time. But there we go. Interesting. Yeah. So that's why when there's two of you flying, as there should be, there's always somebody absolutely watching every one of these parameters. So important. Let's have a look. JJ says ATC is fine. Okay, great. Yep. I can hear fine. Okay, guys, thanks. Let me know if it's too loud now. Simbrief figures. Simon Taylor says he uses the Simbrief figures and inputs the descent winds manually. Absolutely. Seems like a good idea. Beautiful. A321. Absolutely. Brakes. DG27. Oh, good to see you, DG27. Thanks for coming along. And check speed. Absolutely, Edward. Good catch. Yeah. It's amazing. And the 321 has more momentum, especially when it's heavy. So you'll notice a big difference if this is flying around, 10, 15 tons lighter. 122.975 was 439. Goodbye. See if I can keep that in the scan. 122.975. There was a tool that Richard V kindly put up on Discord where he calculates the field of view you should set, and I did try it out and I quite liked it. It gave you a wider field of view as opposed to this more cut-off view, and that way you could look at radios or the overhead panel and still roughly see the PFD. Sadly, it doesn't work so well for streaming because it would make it very difficult for you guys to see what's going on, so I had to change it back for the stream to the default, currently at 60. Approach was Air 439, descending flight level 140 to Ofena.
The 439 Budapest approach, good evening, identified. Descent to 10,000 feet altitude by the QNH 1003, expect straight in 31 right.
Expecting straight in 31 right, descend to 7,000 feet, QNH 1003 was Air 439.
With the 439er, stop climb at 10,000 feet.
Apologies, descend altitude 10,000 feet, QNH 1003 was Air 439. Okay, 10,000 feet, QNH 1003, there we go. It's flashing, it shouldn't be, we're descending down, so that's absolutely fine. We're still above the transition, but there's no problem being there. And I think in managed now, yeah, it's already activated the approach. So we'll bring it back, something reasonable, 270 knots. There we go. JJ's asking what plugins do you use? Right, what have I got? I've got XPUIC, which sends the information out to the streaming software to give you the bar. I've got Avitab, which is absolutely brilliant. I use that a lot. XPilot for my VATSIM connection. Better Pushback. Fly with Lure, which is used for the water to get better waves when we're flying nearer to water. I don't use SAM very much. I haven't fully worked it out. XRAS is a recent addition, again recommended on the Discord, which I do quite like. We'll talk about that in a video one day soon, or maybe in another stream. I need to do a longer flight really to get through some more of these questions. And obviously there's the ToLiss, which is the ISCS screen. So coming down to 10,000 feet, absolutely fine. Weather's been absolutely lovely, so no problems there. So from 12,000 feet, 12, 24, 36, I need 36 miles, maybe 46 miles to slow down straight in, and we got 52. So we're pretty much on profile. That Diamond says 1,000 feet low. Yeah, so I would agree we're not too far off. Let's start to reduce that rate of descent now, just so we're ready. And we'll come back to 250 knots. And then we'll regain the profile. Excellent. Richard V says, I prefer the wild field of view for normal flying, but zoom camera for that landing. Yeah, I could agree with that. Absolutely. You'll find in real flying that you'll be amazed how much your peripheral vision makes a difference. So you use lots of little details and textures. You don't consciously do it, but it's quite good to be able to see a nice wide field of view. So using big, thick sunglasses that have big barriers at the side may affect your field of view as you're coming into land, things like that. Certainly it shows what the oxygen mask does, because if I put the oxygen mask on, as you can see, that does probably in real life it limits obviously your peripheral vision as well around the edge. Oh, there we go. Tango Delta, is there a way to get distance from top of descent if it's not right at a waypoint or fixturing? Well, if you're talking about getting the FMGC to tell you, then you could do what I said earlier, and you could force in a waypoint. So I could write in an altitude, as long as I'm not fiddling with coding of an actual approach, I could change a restriction perhaps, but you've got to be careful doing that. I don't like to do that too much, because these are the charted restrictions. Descent altitude 6,000 feet was at 439. Down to 6,000 feet. So we've flown into the sun, which is great. We've had a sunset for the whole flight. Going down to 6,000 feet. As we go through 10,000 feet, we're going to bring up those. We're going to check we're navigating properly. Still on GPS primary accuracy high. One day I'll do one of these videos with faults enabled, and we'll see what the ToLiss throws at us. Now's a good time to check. 1095 is tuning, which it is there. Also as well, 500 foot elevation, so I expect the radio altimeter to become alive at about 3,000 feet on the QNH, which will be 2,500 feet above the ground. No terrain issues on approach, so just expecting it to come at that point. We can see the MSA here. It's actually down at 2,000 feet around Afena, which will become useful later when we make it more daylight and go and do our view down the runway. Mazen says, if you use managed descent instead of open descent, so Athena won't have you stayed on profile instead of under it. What is the decision criteria? Yeah, you're probably right. I could do that. If you do, you might find that it's a little bit fast. So the Airbus is sometimes a little bit fast with these calculations. There's not much room. It tries to keep it idle as long as it can. So obviously, if you're having to keep the engines idle, you're almost high. You have to use the speed brakes above that. Also of note is that because the approach phase is activated, and it activated earlier than I would like, that means the aeroplane in managed speed, as we see if I do that, wants to be right back at green dot. Now as we're getting closer, that's okay, but it also means that it's expecting to descend at green dot speed to be on this profile. So if you're not at the speed that you've got in the box, and in this case that's green dot, then this profile becomes less accurate. So you have to be aware of that. So that's another reason that I don't put too much weight onto it in this situation. If we were using managed speed and it was saying 250 knots, something like that, then yes, absolutely, I would stick to it. 8, 16, 24 plus 6 miles to slow down. Yeah, we're definitely well within here in terms of height. Probably a little bit low, you're absolutely right. JJ says, how do you feel about people visiting the cockpit before flight? I feel some pilots like it, but some don't. And that's probably the truth. If there's time and it's safe to do so, and as I said before, this is not representing any airline or procedures, but it's always nice to see people who are enthusiastic and enjoy it. And if anyone wants to come and talk to us and there's time, then absolutely. Before the flight, let's do 240 knots just for now, as we're still quite a way out. Still 30 knots, 30 miles. Descend 4,000 feet was there 439. But it could be the case, and I go 4,000 feet, that there's just not time, or certainly before departure it can be busier. After the flight is usually a little bit quieter. There's a bit of time. There we go. Bravo Papa Romeo is identified. We've got 30 miles to go. If we went in Concorde, sun would be rising. DG27. Yes, absolutely. That would be nice. But we can see it gradually sinking down there. Oh, there's some good information there. Yes, progress page report. The top of descent is then on the lowest line. Yep, absolutely good point. Thanks for that, guys. Okay. So as I can see pretty much all the way through to the airport. See it lit up. On present heading, cleared ILS 31 right, was there 439. Okay, no problem there. So we cleared straight in for the ILS. I won't arm it just yet. 26 miles is a little bit far. I'm going to let it turn in on nav, and then I'll arm approach from there. We can start to reduce that now. 240 knots. So when am I going to reduce from that? Well, as a minimum, 15 miles from the runway. And I'll probably do it a little bit earlier due to the fact we're quite heavy at 76 tons. This is going to be a very heavy landing, actually. It depends, like I say, on the actual airline you're working for as to what that weight is. They do vary. Martin Skov, would be great if you show single engine taxi. Apologise if you already have. Love your videos. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Yes, in a couple of my previous flights, I did do single engine, including the last live stream out of Amsterdam, where it's used quite commonly. Okay, let's not forget about that. So let's go to manage speed and let the speed start to come back. We're going just through the localizer, so I might arm the localizer at this point. There you go, lock star, lock. And now we'll start thinking about configuring. Oh, it's a beautiful evening here, landing right into the sun. It's quite hard to land in real life, pointing straight into the sun. It can really affect your ability to see things inside the flight deck because your eyes are outside, you get blinded by the sun, and then you can't see inside very easily because it's obviously a bit darker. The screens do a good job. You've got your sun visors up here. The ToLiss don't seem to have that model. There's no way to bring it down. But yeah, you can put that along the top. But if it's really low, you have to hope your sunglasses are the right sort of clarity that you can use them whilst you're on final approach. One of my favourite things to do is to land with the sun directly behind you, and then you get your shadow on the runway. And as you descend, you can see the airplane shadow get bigger and bigger and bigger until you enter the flare. So that's always quite fun to see. Okay, it's a little bit sluggish, 19 miles out.
Budapest over
118.1 was there 439. Thank you, goodbye. 181. Let's get flap 1 out so I don't forget that. So there we go, that's travelling and we're slowing down. 17 miles, I think it's pretty reasonable. Glide slope's above us, about as expected. So I'm going to arm the approach. And there's a glide slope there, autopilot 1 and 2. Budapest Tower, was there 439, ILS, runway 31 right, 16 miles.
439 Budapest Tower, good evening. Clear to land runway 31 right, wind 260 degrees 5 knots.
Clear to land 31 right, was there 439. Fantastic, already clear to land. Let's wind that right back. And I'm just going to type that in there as a little reminder. Some people do that, just something in there. Some people type in LL to remind them that they've been cleared to land. If you're not sure, obviously, you would just ask. So I definitely want flap 2 now before going down that glide slope. Getting quite tricky to configure. This is very heavy. If you were too heavy and over max landing rate, you could consider putting out the gear early, maybe entering the hold. Let me go and just check. So this has us listed. Okay. And interesting, the ISTS brings up that weather there, which is quite nice. And our chart had it listed as maximum landing rate is 77.8. So there we go. So we are below it, but that is heavy. There are all sorts of different ones, but yeah. So flap 2, no problem. See it sequence through, so that's good. There's a glide slope. So now we can set that going actually to 3,000 feet. Temperature outside, it's nice and warm. We don't need the engine anti-ice for this cloud here. And let's just do 160 for a little bit and speed glide slope localizer. Beautiful view on approach now. Really nice. Enjoying that. There's O5. I wonder if we'll reach 700 subscribers. Yes, I'm not sure where we're sitting now. I haven't heard the Streamlabs do any loud noises as we go. But thank you all for coming along and liking the video and watching. It's really appreciated. And like I say, once we land, we're going to do a little bit of fun. We'll go and do our little fly down the river. But that should come up fairly shortly. So I'm going to do the rest of my configuring. We're approaching at 150 knots, so only 10 knots slower than we're doing now for flap 3. So I'm just going to do that at about 5 miles because it won't take long to slow down from there. Otherwise, we're all looking good. My checklist seems to have disappeared, so I do apologise, Matteo. Again, I will do that properly. I'll have a study of that at some point soon. I wonder if our colleague is flying along behind us. I haven't heard them. I can see the rain, so there are some showers around in Budapest. I do quite like the ToLiss lets you do this, have the PFT up and running here, and continuing on your approach so we don't miss it through 8 miles. 694, yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, oh, it's really amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting and coming along. It's great to see it, and yeah, I enjoy making these, and I hope you enjoy watching them. And here we go, coming in for our landing now. Already clear to land. And the final step to this is going to be, and you'll have seen before, I'm very bad at getting the charts ready after landing. I think we'll vacate probably Zulu, maybe even Kilo. Then we're going to come in and get ourselves through into the terminal. So there's 2,500 feet. Yeah. Oh, it says 2,000 feet. Okay, so the radio temperature did come alive about 3,000. 500 foot difference between the two. Tells me the QNH is correct. That's good. Let's configure now then before we forget. Gear can come down. And final stage for landing, flaps to 3. There we go. Arm those. Get the rest of all these lights on. Those landing lights probably should have been on earlier. And the seatbelt sign should be on. So the cabin crew are doing an excellent job because look at that. Fantastic. They did that in 5 seconds. We'll go to manage speed. And you can see, really, that's a really fast VAP. So it'd be very interesting landing like this. I haven't done it for a while in the ToLiss. But now we meet our stabilization criteria. M1s will be a bit lower because we're only at flap 3, there's less drag. So I'm expecting somewhere in the mid to high 40s. Although it seems to be proven wrong straight away, but we'll see how that stabilizes. Apparently 701 subs, excellent. It's a shame I haven't heard, I don't know if you guys have had the notification from Streamlabs about it as we go. If you have, I apologise for not saying hello to anyone who subscribed. That's very naughty of me, but I don't know if it's working at the moment or not. Jonathan Crackers in Budapest, it's rainy. Yes, it seems to be some showers around. So we're stable at 1,000 feet, just as we wanted to be. Let's see how this goes. I think the graphics in X-Plane at this time of day are just superb. This lighting is really nice. Really good. We've got the nice lit touchdown zone. And there's a landing procedure. I'll just close that for now.
3, 1, right.
There's our RAS reminding us what we're doing. And I'll answer the questions as we get a bit, as we do our taxi in. So we're clear to land already, quite a way out. Autopilot's coming off. Let's see if I can avoid messing this up. Landing in the rain, but the temperature's nice and warm, so no problem there. And thanks to the Airbus, it's just not doing anything now really, just keeping the side stick at neutral. 7.5 degrees is our pitch limit, despite that red arrow being at 10 degrees. Oh, bit of a change in the weather. Seems to just load it at the wrong time. There we go. Of course, you can trust the pilot to use weather and wind changes as an excuse for any landing. I'm just going to hold it there, hold it there, hold it there. Get the reversers out. Hey, we made it close to the centre line this time. Or closer than last time anyway. So we're rolling out, we've got reversers are in the green, we're decelerating, I can see that in the bottom right. The way that decel light flickers is pretty accurate actually. The airplane does do that. We're reverse idle, so we're going to keep that down to our taxi speeds. 60 knots. Here's Zulu. We'll take Zulu, so manual brakes now. Down at taxi speed almost, let's get it right down. Heavy airplane. Hot brakes, I don't want to be rolling off the runway too fast. Reversers back to forward idle. vacating left. Right. Off we come. So how do we do? Thanks again for sharing this broadcast, Geordie. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Brakes hot. The caution is actually inhibited. It wouldn't come up that quickly. It does come up above 300 on the ground, but it's yeah, you wouldn't expect to hear that now. You usually get it a few minutes after landing. And there's, I think that's Matteo following us. You see him on TCAS. So fantastic to have colleagues. This. 121.9 was there 439. Thank you very much. Goodbye. So we're going to get rid of that master caution and we check that. I'm not sure why it's saying speed brake either. We've landed. That's how we expect it to be. Right. 1219. Let's bring it to a stop. I'm sure Matteo won't mind. 1219. Ground, good evening. Was there 439 vacated at Zulu?
Budapest, very good evening and welcome to Budapest. Continue taxi slightly on the left onto Lima, left turn onto Papa 3, stand of choice.
Left turn Lima, Papa 3, stand of choice. Thank you, was there 439. Okay, so those can go off. Don't need landing lights. Get the strobes off so we don't blind any other pilots. They can disarm. Those can go to 0. That can go to transponder. Don't need the anti-ice. Brakes are passing through 410. As I've said before, we try to leave the fans as late as we can. If we think it's going above 500, most pilots would put them on because you don't want them getting too hot. But we try and do it a bit later, but before we park, so that the ground crew don't get covered in the brake dust. And I'm just going to... Actually, we'll leave that off for now, so I can forget that probably for later. Great graphics here on X-Plane as well. I love the lighting. Here comes our colleague. Excellent. Although there's probably quite a few Wizz Airs flying around today. So left turn onto Lima. So hopefully that's this first left here. There's Lima. So the black board is the one that taxiway is related to. And I can see it nicely written here. Another thing I really like, this is default scenery, but they do a great job. I'm not sure whether this actually is the Aerosoft one, but it's got even the Budapest quite distinctive tower there. So they did a really good job there. I really like it. Okay, Lima. Papa 3, stand of our choice. So how's that going to work? Lima, let's go to the parking stands. What have I done? Zulu. 3 on right, yeah. Zulu. Lima. Am I supposed to go Papa 3, first left? That must be where Wizz Air Park in Budapest, so that's good to know. So we'll go somewhere near this Edelweiss. Excellent. Right, how are the brakes doing? 460. Yeah, okay, let's get those fans on. They'll cool down nice and quickly at temperature of 19 degrees. And then we go. I like these vehicles. I wouldn't get that close behind an airliner. Could find yourself being blasted with jet blasts quite easily. Max band 36 meters, that's us, that's fine. Stand of our choice, so let's just go. Let's take 2 stands over in case there's some sort of wingtip issue I don't know about in Budapest. Airbus push buttons go off. We'll turn off the flap 3 GWS as well because the next pilots may not use that. Let's get that APU up and running. 3 seconds, don't get impatient. And I got impatient anyway. Let's go. It's 272, the next one. Yeah, that should be good for us. Turn off the lights so we don't blind the ground crew. We've got brake pressure. The APU is starting up. Bit of oversteering in the wet. The paint can be very slippery. Round we come. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, 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 no. That went wrong. Right, let's get this sorted. I do have terrible difficulty. The tiller in the Airbus, you have quite a lot of range of motion, whereas obviously on our joysticks at home, we have quite a limited amount. So it can be very sensitive. So there you go. And the nose steering in the real Airbus is fly-by-wire as well. There's no actual connection. So You've got to be quite careful. It's quite sensitive as well, but not quite that sensitive. So there we go. Phew. Got over that, I hope. Parking brake is set. The brake fans are on. The APU is available, so I'm going to get rid of those. Let the passengers walk around. Let the M1 reduce down.
1707 request startup and pushback.
And there we go. Excellent. We can go off. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me for the flight. How did that landing go, guys? We got a few butter, smooth. Oh, okay, minus 33. I don't know if that just comes up on the overlay. I'm not even sure how that calculates it, but good to know it worked out. Didn't spill my vodka tonic, says Glenn. Very good. And Lexi says, I'm not sure I've ever touched down on the center line. Yes, it's especially in X-plane, it's quite hard to get right. But there we go. Okay. Let's have a very quick look. We're going to disconnect from VATSIM, who have been excellent for us. So that's now gone. Get rid of that. And let's have a very quick look at the replay, if anyone is interested. And then from there, we are going to go and do very quickly our flight down the Danube, if anyone's interested. But thank you all for joining me today. It's absolutely my pleasure. Feel free to leave now, obviously. It's going to just be a very short VFR flight now. I'll just have to change the weather to make it a bit nicer as we head out to basically fly north and do a little flyby down the river. Wizz Air did do it a few years ago, as you may have seen on YouTube. Yes, Geordie, I should get rudder pedals. That would definitely help the situation. Oh, we've had a problem here. Oh no! What has happened? And we've got a device loss error. X-plane cannot continue running and will now quit. Ah, that is really frustrating. Okay, everybody, you've been very patient, and thank you very much for joining me today. I think the only sensible thing to do here is to quit while we're ahead. So it's going to take me a while to load it in. Is anybody here interested? Are you guys looking to have the flight down the Danube? Let me know if you are, but it will take me a little bit of time. Fly 24 is interested in sticking around. Let me close the application and get it reloading just in case. But yes, SB, thank you very much for joining me. Have a good evening. Yes, Richard V, that was the ding of death. So it's lucky that was after the flight. So that is frustrating. That's the Vulcan error. So we had that in the last stream. Thankfully, it happened quite late on this one. But there we go. I'm just going to load up back in. The replay's gone, I'm afraid, Lizzo5. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. So the plan for this flight, I will do it anyway. So anyone who wants to stick around, that's what we'll do. We're going to take off. We're going to go to 3,000 feet. We're going to head northwest, and then we're going to fly down the Danube River. They did it for the Budapest Air Show. They did it 2 years in a row. They've done it in a 320 and a 321. We're going to go down to 200 feet, flat 160 knots, and fly down the river. Then we'll brake left once we've gone towards the Margaret Bridge, which is just before Margaret Island. If any of you have been to Budapest, that's a great island. It's got a little water park, a zoo on it. Really nice to have a walk around. Surprisingly big as well. It takes quite a while to walk around. Then they came back around, so they're clean 220 knots, and then they went from there. So we'll just head off, have a quick flight down the Danube, and then that'll be that for today. So yeah, Swappy, yes. Michael B, yes. Excellent. Geordie, cheers. Yep, thanks very much for coming along. Captain Matteo Chewy, very distressing thing being on VATSIM and watching the stream at the same time. I flight on my own, so that's quite something to be able to do both at the same time. It looks like you guys are getting my loading screen, so that's of some success. Hopefully it loads us into Budapest. Process. I've got it all saved. I've got a scenario set up ready to go. I imagine quite a lot of you know. The left side being Buda and the right Budapest. Captain Matteo, thank you for the flight. Great fun, super informative. That's very kind. Thank you very much for joining us. Simon, no problem at all. Thank you for coming along. It's my pleasure. There'll be more streams to come later on. Right, let's work out where we are just while we get that set up. This is very unprofessional. I do apologize. Okay, looks like we are just in Romania, so that is absolutely fine. And we'll bring up our loaded situation, air show takeoff, LHBP load. Probably better to do it this way because we've got the engines already running. Hopefully that landing rate mark disappears. Sorry about the replay going missing, guys. Nope. Just a shame. The Vulcan thing seems to be still unstable as we go through. So we'll find out how Beta 10 is soon, although it seems quite risky to use in this. It does take a while to load up these replays if you're not in the right area. Sadly, I should have checked. We've loaded in Bucharest. Going to have scenery in Budapest, but it should come together quite nicely. Ian Morris, you're absolutely welcome. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you again hopefully soon. Here we go. Excellent. So, do we do it in this weather, nice at night, or do we do it in the daylight? That is the question. I don't know what the scenery is going to look like as we get down there at night. Let's just cheat. Let's just make it a little bit more sunny to give us a fighting chance. Okay, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. Guys, this is definitely not professional or a procedure that you'd expect to see. I don't know how Wizz Air calculated all their performance and so on for it, but it was a great video and I've had a watch of it. If any of you know anything, please do let me know. We're taking off from 3-1 left. Flaps going to be at 1. Let's do a toga takeoff, and the speed's 130, really low. We're at an empty airplane, as you can see. I've just put 6 passengers, maybe some camera crew in the back to go and enjoy it. 134. We're only going to go to 3,000 feet. Let's just check the QNH. We should have about 500 feet elevation. It's probably a bit high, so maybe it is still down at 1. Well, let's just see. Matching real world conditions. QNH is 1,000 here. There we go. That's looking more reasonable. So we're going to take off. You can see it on here. I'm going to have the terrain display on, but soon we'll turn that off for reasons that will become obvious. We're going to take off. We're going to head north, up, VFR, fly down the river, and then we'll end it there. We won't come back and land, but there we go. Right. Let's get those lights on. The strobes are on, entering the runway. And as we head over, we're going to turn off the GPRS to stop it shouting pull up at us the whole time. As I said, this is not something that pilots will do. This is entirely just me trying to recreate that. Let's have a look.
3-1 left.
Excellent. So, thank you, Matteo. Thanks for joining in. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for flying along with us. And yeah, have a good evening. Right, you can see it's running away a bit, the Airbus. At these lighter weights, we are down at 54 tons.
1 left.
With about 5 tons of fuel on board. So here we go. Swap ES has 0 crashes with Vulcan. So there you go. Interesting. Right, off we go then. So this could all go wrong. So I do apologise if it does. Please don't take this as representative of actual flying. Put that to take off and let's go. So we're going to start the timer. We're going for a toga takeoff. Still the same. We'll go half side stick forwards and then toga thrust. Hopefully the audio is working for you guys. I understand there's been some crackling. Right, let's go. So stabilize the engines. And then all forwards. So we get 3 clicks. Man toga, SRS runway, auto thrust is armed. I should get rid of that overlay for you guys. Let me get rid of that once we get going. Otherwise it's just going to be confusing if anyone comes to watch the stream. Up to 100 knots. Neutral side stick. 130 knots for V1 and rotate. Up we go. Oh, very sensitive. Very quick to get off the ground there. Positive climb. Gears coming up. Nice high flight directors. That's what I'd like to see. Nav. So let's put in the autopilot for this for now. That's star already. Thrust levers back, 2 clicks. Climb thrust. Absolutely amazing, the performance in these airplanes when they're empty. Flaps is already accelerating, come to 0. Now I'm going to turn off the GPWS system so it doesn't shout as we do the whole thing, so we no longer get our display. I'm going to reduce the speed for our first one, so we'll just head over there at 200 knots. And I think we're going to come left and enter here, fly along here and up there. It's an amazing achievement that the guys did this. It must have been a real piece of planning. So flight direction can come off, the bird can come on, and let's start reducing the speed towards our 160 knots. Lowering the nose and bringing it round. So we said for this first pass we'll do flap 2, gear down, which is pretty much what I saw them do in their video. Disarm that. I'm not entirely sure what other procedures they used to make it work. Flap 1, flap 2, and they were down at 200 feet. So we'll start our descent. Captain Matteo True, absolutely enjoy your dinner. Thank you very much for coming along. What I will do is get rid of the overlay. There we go. So hopefully that's a bit neater and will make more sense if anyone comes along later to watch. So starting our descent now, 160 knots. Auto thrust is in speed mode, which is exactly what we want it to be for this. And we're going to make, I think we'll make a left turn to 2,000 feet. And they did, I'm pretty sure they did this all visually. I can't imagine there's any instruments they could set up. Swap, yes, yep, overlay is gone. Thank you for that. Absolutely. So we'll use 25 degrees angle of a bank. As we pass through 2,000 feet rad out, we get the landing memo, but we're not going to use that. We might start hearing too low gear. That would be interesting. But I have turned off the GPWS system, so that will hopefully avoid that. We shall see. Oh, am I going to be low enough in time? I think not. I think that's the bridge there. Interesting. So let's go to 2,000 feet. What we'll do is we'll make a left turn and spiral round, left all the way around, and then fly up the river. Because we're going to fly along here. This mount here, I believe, is where you can get a great view over the city. Past the chain link bridge, and then you've got the Parliament there. The palace will be somewhere here, and that's where they went to Toga and headed off. So yeah, it's impressively close. It's quite an amazing piece of flying. Okay, let's bring ourselves round now. Michael B. It's always nice to see a real-world pilot demonstrate how these aircraft should be flown. Well, that's very kind of you. This is absolutely not how this should be flown. I'm certain it's probably not how they flew it on the day, and I'm not trying to pretend it is. I'm just having a bit of fun with the flight simulator. So this is purely for our own flight simulator entertainment, but here we go. So let's start descending. We can see already that we're about 1,400 feet above the ground on the rad out, so I think we want to be down at 200 feet once we get to the river. The Red Bull Air Race guys, I'm not sure what speeds they do, but you'll have seen they flew under the bridges at the same air show, which is quite spectacular. So here we go, gradual descent. Around we go, 25 degrees of bank. Again, I'm sorry about the quality, guys. If anyone's still seeing it a bit blurry, we will sort that out next time. Still 1,400 feet because that ground has disappeared beneath us, so that's fine. Keep it descending. Keep it descending right. Let's get that height off now. I want to get down to 200 feet. Flap 2 does provide us some good drag. Okay, let's keep that rate of descent something reasonable. Start our bank turn. And yeah, they flew 200 feet, and they even seemed to fly almost through some of the parts of the bridges, which was just amazing. There we go, leaving our altitude, still up at 1,000 feet. This is amazing. This feels really low even to me, and I was expecting to do this. There's the master warning saying the landing gear's not down, which is, yeah, absolutely correct. Okay, I'm going to have to overbank slightly, so that's almost guaranteed not how they did this, because this is not very stable at all. So we're down at 500 feet, about 40 degrees of bank. Then we'll put the gear down, because that's going to get rid of that warning and also help us out. 400 feet, so it's flying now past the mountain on the left that has the great viewpoints on it. 300, we're not going to go below 200 feet. And then they were all viewing from these bridges on the right.
Caution, taxiway. Caution.
Oh
taxiway.
no, I'll turn off RAS for the next pass. There's 200 feet, 160. Flying down the Danube. There we go. Excellent. Still sitting at 200 feet, and we're going to do a full toga, go around as we get to here. And there are people all lined on the banks, including on this bridge. And then we fly right for the middle. That's the beautiful island I was talking about earlier, Margaret. 160, that's a bit low, and here we go. Man toga, and up we go. Get the gear up. make our left turn. Levers back to climb, already approaching 2,000 feet. And that is a high rate of climb. Let's get the nose down. So there you go. That's probably going to be a bit low over this terrain. We'll see. Let's accelerate now. Let's do a 200 knot pass. Because they did another high speed one. And I'm curious to have a look at how that would feel. They probably didn't go at this altitude over this terrain. They probably made a right turn in hindsight. So let's get the flaps to 1 and then to 0. Keeping it level. That would look like quite a picture out the window. Yeah, that's certainly ridiculous. Ridiculously low. And there we go. I'm not sure we're going to get over this hill very easily. Let's make a gap through there. Absolutely ridiculous. That mast is certainly above our MSA, so they'd have very carefully, that would have been very carefully calculated, that flight. I'm sure they knew where every obstacle was and how they were going to avoid it. So this time they went down about, I think, 200 knots-ish, and then they accelerated to 240, 250, and then they pulled up and waggled the wings over the town. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Have a look at the real video. It's really spectacular. And as I said, there's 2. They did it twice. That the bit of landing gear warning again. So there's the mountain we flew past. I call it a mountain. It's just a big hill. Great views over the city, though. I think that's the chain bridge. I'm not sure. So on this side of Budapest is where you'll see the baths. It's famous for the baths, which are really nice if you ever go to Budapest. I know travel at the moment is a little bit difficult with the lockdown, but yeah, if you do get to go, it's a lovely city. And I know, I'm sure many of you have been. Okay, let's go and do the same thing again. So get ourselves down 1,000 feet above the ground. Just get ourselves downwind. It's amazing how I didn't realize quite how close it is to the airport. Look at that, just 10 miles away. So their flights to and from the river for that must have been very close. So we're going to have to be careful here. I've got a bit of extra speed on, so getting around this turn is going to take quite a bank angle. So this could go horribly wrong, we shall see. I'm sure they didn't fly over the houses at this altitude. They must have gone further out. I'm just guessing here, guys. If anyone knows, please do chip in. There's our landing gear warning again. But this time we're not using the gear. Let's see where we are. Where is the city? Yeah, okay. I think we can bring it in at this angle. That'll be fine. So this time we'll probably need a good 30 degrees. This is normal law, so if I just go full side stick left and then let go, it'll just settle at 33 degrees. And that's probably a good place to stop turning. In real life, I wouldn't be banking more than probably 25 degrees without the flight directors like this, just to give you some room. You don't want to be pushing it. 33 is quite a steep turn. You'd certainly feel that it would stand out. What we're going to do is I'm going to leave it at 200 knots managed speed, and then we will have to, let's get the height off now, and then we'll have to go to toga. And with the flaps at 0, that won't bring us the go-around mode, so that'll be fine. And hopefully we're coming up to the river now. So there's 600 feet. There we go. 500 feet above the ground. Train crossing the river. Excellent. And Parliament Tour, Lexi says, yeah, that's a great idea. It's a spectacular building, the Parliament. It's a shame the Explained scenery doesn't seem to include it. It has a great Budapest airport, but slightly lacking scenery out here. Right, so down we go. 200 feet we're looking for. 200 knots. 300 feet. Get that bank in now. At these speeds, it's going to be harder to fly these turns because it's going to take more bank. The Airbus makes this quite pleasant to fly though, because it naturally accounts for the banks and holds the trim for us. There we go, passing the same point. Hopefully there's people up on that hill looking down on us. That should be quite a fun view for them. Let me set up 25 degrees of bank and then have another flyby, this time clean. Fantastic. Brilliant. So let's go to Toga now. Man Toga. Start accelerating. That'll make a nice noise for the crowds, which is probably one reason to do it. Get it back to 200 feet, 240 knots at the bridge, and then we'll pull up. And then I think they did a nice little wing waggle, so we can do the same to say goodbye. And also that'll say goodbye to you guys for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this stream and for bearing with my silliness at the end. I hope you enjoyed it. There'll be more streams and more tutorials coming soon. Discord invite is in the description, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Otherwise, have a lovely evening, and thank you again for joining us.